Okay, I believe we're live. Hello, good morning and good afternoon and maybe good evening to you wherever you are in the world, and welcome to another Spider Strategies Education webinar. Today on May 14th of 2020, our topic is helpful tips and tricks, which we also kind of jokingly also called did you know you can do this, or little life hacks in both QuickScore and Scoreboard. My name is Tom Keating, and I am a customer success advocate here at Spider Strategies, and it's my pleasure and privilege to be your presenter today for this webinar. Should any of you ever want to reach me directly, you can get me at tom.keating@spiderstrategies.com. Before we get into the webinar, just real quickly, a couple of the logistics that you should be aware of. This webinar is being recorded for your future use and or reference. All of you live attendees who are good enough to join me live here today, you are muted. And if you should have any questions or communications, either during this session or afterwards, please feel free to reach out to us anytime at learn@spiderstrategies.com. Let's talk about our agenda for today. It's kind of a long one. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to endeavor to cover 10 different tips and tricks, or did you know, or little life hacks that we think that you should be aware of. Again, I won't read this list of what we're going to cover on the agenda here today at you, but with them being 10 different things, and let's say I've got approximately 50 minutes to cover all this, I'm going to have to approach this as sort of a little 5 minutes per, we'll call it, vignette on each of these topics. I hope that they will end up being helpful to you, introduce you to things about QuickScore and Scoreboard that you may not know about, or just hopefully further educate you on what you can do with these different capabilities, features, and functions. Today's demonstration platform that I'll be using, as I've done in past weeks, we're going to be using QuickScore, with apologies to our Scoreboard customers who are attending that we're not using directly Scoreboard, but I will tell you that everything you're going to see via QuickScore is also a capability right at your fingertips within Scoreboard. And again, in terms of the environment that I'll be using for my demonstrations and education today, we're going to be using our good old Mobile World Inc. Mythical company. For those of you who may not be familiar with Mobile World as a demonstration or a training environment, it's a mythical, big global telecommunications company, lots of different departments and divisions, worldwide presence. It's a good big company for us to sort of play with as we move through our demonstration and education topics. So again, just a quick review of the agenda, and let's go ahead and jump into topic number 1, which is bookmarks. I'll bring up QuickScore, and I've landed at the homepage. I will be making some presumptions of a lot of you that are attending and watching this, that you already know hopefully a lot about QuickScore and or Scoreboard, so I won't be educating you on all the basics. But as I hope you are aware, in Scoreboard and QuickScore, on the far left, there's a black primary navigation pane. And when we land at the homepage, we are in one of the areas or the sections in what we call a personal category. So the homepage it's all about me. When I've logged in, it has acknowledged me as Tom Keating, having logged in, and towards the right, there's a listing of my responsibilities, including measures that I should update, measures I own, and tasks that have been assigned to me. There's also in the middle a listing of alerts that pertain to me, as alerts that I personally have subscribed to, or that the system has determined should be pushed to me to make me personally aware of something within the QuickScore system. In that personal area up here in the upper left, subtle and unknown to a lot of our customers, there's also a bookmarks area. So I'm going to click on bookmarks. What bookmarks is basically your own private library of content or applications that you decide you would like one-click single access to without having to navigate and go find these elements that may live in a variety of diverse locations throughout your scorecards or your initiatives or your dashboards and reports and what have you. So what I've done here is created a fairly simple bookmarks library where I have single-click access to a strategy map, a sales pipeline dashboard, a sales versus expenses dashboard, and so on. I've got a red measures report. And the idea is that all of these are things that I know that I want to access quickly and easily on a regular basis. And again, I don't want to have to remember where they all live in the different sections of QuickScore or Scoreboard. So if I want to extend my bookmarks library, which is the idea here, is like we're going to show you how you create bookmarks. I'll just tell you a little story here. Is let's imagine that my colleague Lisa, who's the customer support manager, is going to be going on, let's say, a 10-day vacation over to Europe. And she has asked me to monitor the performance of her organization in her absence. So I've clicked into the scorecards area and I'm looking at the customer support organization and the customer support scorecard. So Lisa is basically asking me to keep my eyes on some key measures and the dashboard for her. So she says the calls handled is a measure that she looks at every single day. Percent calls answered, again, very important, and transfer rate. So 3 different measures that are important to her, and she's asking me to monitor in her absence. There's also a dashboard that she leverages regularly, giving her easy one, glimpse view of the call center key measures. So all of these are things that I now am expected to look at with some frequency in her absence. So I don't want to have to remember where all this lives in the customer support scorecard. So instead of having to do that, what I'll do is open each and every one of these applications that I should be looking at, and in the upper right corner, far upper right corner, there's a 5-button toolbar that we'll be covering extensively here today. And one of the buttons is a star for bookmarks. I'm going to simply click on bookmarks and note that the star becomes blue. That's an indication to me that I have just bookmarked this dashboard. I'm going to go back to the scorecard section and ask Lisa to Lisa, what were the measures I should be following? She says it's calls handled. I'll bookmark that. I'll go to percent calls answered. I'll bookmark that. I'll go to transfer rate, which is the 3rd and last measure that she wants me to be looking at regularly, and I'll bookmark that. So at the end of that effort, if I go back to my bookmark section, note that I have here, in addition to what was already in the library, I now have an easy single-click access to the call center key measures, the calls handled, and so forth. Now, if I wanted to categorize that, just so that I understand these are things that I'm doing for Lisa, I can create a new folder and just call this Lisa's stuff, right? Lisa's stuff. And I'll create a new folder. And then I can just simply drag and drop my transfer rate into Lisa's stuff. I can drag percent calls answered into Lisa's stuff, and so on and so forth. So all these measures and these dashboards can now be categorized or, hidden, if you will, for me under Lisa's stuff. And then I click done, and I'm out of edit mode, and I have extended my personal bookmarks library to include all of Lisa's stuff so I can find it quickly and easily. Single click, there it is. I don't have to remember where they live and find them. Now, eventually, when Lisa comes back, I may say, all right, I don't really need this anymore. So so you're aware, bookmarks, they're easy to turn on and put into your library, and they're equally easy to remove from your library. So if I want to remove transfer rate, I'll just do this as the one example. I go up to the blue bookmark star icon, click on it, and say delete, and it's gone. And I can do the exact same kind of thing with the other measures. And I also, of course, can just edit and remove eventually, just remove all of Lisa's stuff folder. So I'll go ahead and just delete that whole folder, and it's gone. So that's bookmarks. The next thing that we'll talk about is search and find capabilities within QuickScore and Scoreboard, okay? So again, I kind of like to orient myself back at the home page as we move through these different topics and vignettes here. So back at the home page, again, at the bottom of the black primary navigation pane in the lower left corner, you will always see a little magnifying glass for search. So I'll be covering the idea of a global search capability as well as a more distinct and precise find capability. So in the lower left-hand corner, search, if I click on search and say, I need to go find somewhere within this whole QuickScore solution information about revenue. As I start typing revenue, it does a keyword search, an immediate live keyword search, acknowledges the text that I've typed in here, and it has found for me within the entirety of the underlying QuickScore database repository 64 scorecard elements that have the word revenue somewhere in them, and down towards the bottom, 2 different dashboards and 1 report that are in one way, shape, or form related to the word revenue. I can change that search and say, okay, great, what about maybe product? So if I put in the keyword product, again, this global search has found 30 different scorecard elements, one dashboard, and one slide related, again, to product. And once I find these things, if I want to get into them, it's a single click to say, well, let's go take a look at, product sales revenue for Australasia. And it drills me down into that scorecard element, showing me that particular, in this case, measure of product sales revenue for Australasia. And so that's as easy as pie to just do a global search and find something that relates, to the word or the text that you type in here. And I want to just, again, reiterate here that this is keyword specific. Now, one thing that I think is kind of cool and unique is if I put in the word product, it finds, of course, all kinds of applications and scorecard elements and what have you that contain the word product. But notice here that there are some things like improved knowledge and skills. That doesn't have the word product overtly in it. But if I click on it, again, it will drill me down into that objective to improve knowledge and skills. And I still may say, what does this have to do with product? Well, if I go and look towards the upper right, again, this 5-button toolbar in the far upper right, I'll click on info, and this is, again, a topic we'll get a little deeper into in a minute. But if I go in here, I see that buried within this objective to improve knowledge and skills is the word product, just simply in the description. So this search goes really deep in terms of finding whatever text or keyword you define in that search parameter and finding it in the name of, scorecard elements and descriptions and anywhere that word lives somewhere in the underlying repository. So that's global search capabilities throughout QuickScore and Scoreboard. Now, another, if you will, find or search capability that exists is what we call find. So I've opened up the scorecards section here. I'm looking at the Mobile World Inc. organization and its scorecard. And notice up here at the top, there is another magnifying glass in the top of the black navigation pane, another magnifying glass. And if I do the same kind of thing here and type in the word revenue, notice I don't get 60 plus results because what it's doing here is a specific context-based search of the Mobile World Inc. organization and the scorecards section that I have activated. So it's only finding for me elements that contain the word revenue within the scorecards area of Mobile World Inc. If I change over to the initiatives area and do a search on revenue, so I'm still in the same organization or scorecard, but if I put in the word revenue, there's nothing there. So it's scorecard specific, organization scorecard, and section specific find. But again, it does the same general thing of just finding you things that contain the keyword that you type in, and then of course you can click on those to then dive or drill directly to that particular element that you found. So that is search and find. Moving on to our next topic or little vignette. Again, I told you I kind of like just to bounce back to the home page just to get started. But our next topic here, or vignette, is about related items. Related items live in the foundation area of QuickScore and Scoreboard. So the foundation is, of course, comprised of your scorecards, your initiatives, and your files. All these different sections and all of the different elements that live within them give you the opportunity to associate related items to anything. And related items really are very much what their name says what they are. They're things that relate to something else. So if I go to the Mobile World Inc. scorecard here, and I'm looking at just the Mobile World Balance scorecard at the highest level, if you look towards the lower right-hand corner, there is a related items section here. And the idea here is that we say, look, as we're reviewing our performance across the larger Mobile World Balance scorecard, and we can navigate forward and backward in time and see how we're doing month to month to month and all that good stuff. We also may say, while we're looking at a given time period, I would like to also understand, how this is impacting finance. So I can create, and what we've created here is for the Mobile World Balance scorecard, we've got related items that say, if I want to investigate very quickly, how are we doing financially? I can just do a single click on that financial overview dashboard, and I've jumped away from the Mobile World scorecard and am now looking at the financial organization and a dashboard that has been created, giving me an understanding of how we're performing, again, financially over time against some key, financial metrics. And when I'm done with that investigation, I can just navigate right back to the Mobile World Balance Scorecard, and I can leverage other related items. And you see here a couple different varieties of related items that pertain to that Mobile World Balance Scorecard. And that concept falls down to all different levels within scorecards. So I could go to the financial perspective, and I see that for the financial perspective, again, if you look to the lower right corner, I again, in this case, have, 3 different related items. One happens to be just a background image. Another is a financial overview report. I can get down into the objective level and say, what about increased revenue? Well, what we have determined here is that somebody believes that increased revenue will be impacted by or will impact the migrating servers to cloud initiative. So again, just same idea. I don't want to beat the dead horse here, but I can click on the Migrate Servers to Cloud initiative and go down and take a look at it. And you'll note here, of course, that there is kind of a retroactive relationship between related items. So if I am looking at Migrate Servers to Cloud that I drilled to by clicking on it as a related item to increase revenue, notice that down at the bottom, there's increased revenue. So I can link back to increase revenue as well. So these things are, again, related to each other. They give you one-click, single access visibility to, just different things within the foundational areas of QuickScore and Scoreboard. And again, if I click on initiatives, you just saw this, but any initiative, again, or task or milestone can similarly have related items, and files can even have related items. If I go to a particular logging in file, this is, a document that we uploaded into the files area of QuickScore so that people can easily access login information, how to do it, or navigation instructions within QuickScore. And you'll note that either of them, towards, in this case, the upper right, have a related items section. So related items exist really everywhere throughout the foundation sections of QuickScore and Scoreboard. Now, how you add a related item is about as simple as it can be. You simply click Add, and then you get a menu of a wide variety of different types of applications that you can link to. And so they're the very predictable, scorecard items, initiatives, strategy maps, dashboards, chart supports, briefings, all of which, of course, come from internal QuickScore applications. You also can link to a file, and you can even also create a related item to something that lives outside of QuickScore via a web address. So it's very simple, just to create a related item. Let's say that, I want to say that let's go to the mobile world and go to financial here, and financial perspective and the improved profitability objective. And here maybe I'd like to add in the related items 2 more things. I'd like to add, a report and a dashboard. So I simply click Add and go up to a scorecard item, and I'll navigate out and find out here, actually I wanted to do a report here. Hang on, bear with me. Let me just click away from that. Add a report, charter report is what I wanted to do, sorry. And I've got a red measures report that I would like to add. So I simply find it, click it, and it's now been added as an additional related item. Similarly, same kind of idea. If I wanted to add a dashboard, I can go into the financial area and find my financial overview dashboard and add it. So immediately I've added a couple of related items to this improved profitability objective. So that is related items. Okay, quick breath here. Moving on to our next topic. Again, you guys know I like to just kind of reorient myself back at the home page here. The next topic on our agenda is info. And this brings us into an area that is, again, largely existent in the foundation area, but also really lives in many, many, many sections of QuickScore and Scoreboard. To be honest, about the only page where you're not going to see this very functional 5-button toolbar is on the home page. So note in the upper right-hand corner of the home page, there is no toolbar. But if I go into scorecards, notice it in the upper right-hand corner, there now exists this 5-button toolbar up here with some really important and powerful capabilities therein. If I go to initiatives, again, the toolbar is up there as well. If I go to dashboards, again, the toolbar is up there. So the next couple topics that we're going to talk about all are accessed via this toolbar in the upper right-hand corner of the majority of the screens throughout QuickScore and Scoreboard. So info, I mean, we already took a look at it once here today, but info gives you, again, what its name implies. It gives you information about the scorecard or initiative or files or whatever element that you have active on the screen in front of you. So again, I've returned to the Mobile World Inc. organization. I'm looking again at the Mobile World Balanced Scorecard. And let's say that this overview is fine. I appreciate what I'm getting in the insight that it's providing to me. I wonder if there's more information that I should know about this. So I can click on the info button in the upper right, and it gives me really just kind of a summarized view of really what was already on the overview page. You know, probably the key thing that it's showing me here with regard to this scorecard is the underlying internal ID in the underlying QuickScore database repository. It's giving me visibility to the description that someone has provided, which I didn't really see on the overview page. But then it's also summarizing some details about this, and again, giving me a list of the related items that we just discussed. And I can move down the ladder, if you will, down to a perspective and say, well, what kind of information is, again, behind the scenes about this financial perspective? Again, I get the ID, the internal behind the scenes ID. I get whatever type of description has been provided, details about what it is, what kind of weight it carries, and again, related items. So you're getting the sense here that level by level, no matter what you click on, if I just keep going here to an objective and click on the info button here, I'll see again details about that objective called increased revenue. And then really the gory details here of measures. So if I click on this measure of product revenue, and I'd like to know more information about product revenue than I can see here on the overview or even the measures tab of that measure, I again can click on the info button in the upper right, and I see again a broad, perspective on what is the nature of this particular measure. Again, things like its unique underlying ID. And then really kind of cool is, what type is it? It tells me this is a linked item, and then it gives me a hyperlink to the actual source of this linked item. I'm not going to talk too much about linked items right now because we're going to discuss it as a specific topic in just a few minutes. But it does give me the information about, like, how is this being scored? Oh, this is a goal and red flag measure. How often is this thing expected to be updated? It's monthly. What type is it? This is a money-based thing. As I change, my views of this over time, how should it be aggregated? So lots of information available to me here about this one single measure. Okay? So I'll click close on that. So that's basically information. And again, you can get the same kind of thing if I were to go to the initiatives section and I look at an initiative here. Let's just pick on, migrate servers to cloud. We've got this objective. We're going to get our servers up on the cloud, and we've got a timeline, and we've got a budget, and all the good things that an initiative does. And I might want to know a little more about this than what I see again on the overview tab. If I click info, I get lots of detailed information about that particular initiative above and beyond what I was able to see on the overview tab. Okay, so information is there across the board using the wonderful little I button in that upper right-hand toolbar. All right, next topic to address. We're just going to be making our way across this upper right toolbar here. And again, in this case, I'm not going to go back to the home page because I told you there is no toolbar on the home page, so it's not a good place for me to reorient myself. So instead here, I'll just stay in the scorecards section and just continue to work a little bit with this Mobile World Balanced Scorecard scorecard. We've talked about I for initiative or info. We've already discussed bookmarks, and you see obviously that this is blue because I have chosen to make a view of this Mobile World Balanced Scorecard something that exists in my personal bookmarks library. And then the next button up here is alerts. So alerts give me the opportunity, of course, as you would expect, to subscribe to something within QuickScore or Scoreboard. Now, this topic is going to take me back one step, back out to the home page. I just want to remind you that when you, as a user, are on the home page, as we saw earlier, when I logged in as me, I landed at my home page. It shares with me my responsibilities on the right, and then there's this alert section. So in previous versions of our software solution, if you wanted to work with alerts, you had to basically start from the home page and know what it is you want to be alerted about, and know where to find it and how to tell QuickScore Scoreboard that you want to subscribe to an alert. So what you would do is say, show all alerts. I'm now looking at the alerts, if you will, admin area, and it's saying, all right, this is telling me these are all of your alerts that, you know, they're existing right here, right now, today. If there was any historical alerts, they would be listed. And towards the far upper right-hand corner, if I wanted to create a new subscription to an alert, I would have to come here and click Edit Subscriptions, and I see that I already have a fair amount of alert subscriptions that I voluntarily set up for myself to make me aware if, you know, for example, if a score changes, you know, below or equal to 5, or when something is published, or whatever, a measure value changes above a certain threshold. So I had previously set these all up using the Add button in the upper right-hand corner. So this is a perfectly valid way to still continue to subscribe, you know, to alerts about elements. But if you do this, you have to know what element you're going after. You have to define what it's going to be. You know, let's say I want to know about a score change on, you know, let's say book revenue. So I would have to go out here and I would have to find book revenue and select it. And then at the bottom define, you know, let's say that I want to know if its score dips below a normalized score of 5. So I can do this, and you still, of course, can do this within QuickScore and Scoreboard, which is fine. But as I said, you need to know what you're going after in advance of setting up the alert subscription. So that's, if you will, perfectly valid current, but somewhat old way to set up alerts. The new way, thanks to version 3.3 and this alerts button here within the toolbar, is I can be looking at the element that I now decide on a whim I want to set up an alert for this. So I might go in and let's go back, you know, down here, we'll go to improve customer satisfaction. And let's say that I now want to set up an alert here for customer satisfaction survey. All I have to do is be looking at that element, that particular, in this case, measure, go up to the alerts, click on it and say, hey, you don't have any alerts for this. Let's edit an alert. And I say, you know what? I'd like to add an alert for this. When the score change, again, it's the same general process. In this case, I'll say, look, if the normalized score dips below 7 for this scorecard item, I want to be alerted. And I just can do it very quickly and easily here. So it truncates and speeds up the alert subscription process for you, because you can do it right from the thing that you want to be alerted about. And again, you can do that with scorecard elements. You can do it with initiative elements and so forth. And so or actually, you can't do it with initiatives. I apologize. There's nothing to be alerted about an initiative. But any different type of scorecard element, be it a scorecard itself, a perspective, an objective, all a particular measure, you can set up alerts for those. Okay? So while we're still talking about this alerts button, that all pertains, again, to scorecard elements and setting up alerts. But if you're looking at a different application, so let's say that you're looking at a dashboard. So this key measure history dashboard, and I would say, well, you know what? I'd like to know about this when a new version of this comes alive. So what I can do is, again, click on that alerts button. And in this case, I'm moving a bit from the idea of subscribing to even the capability of publishing. So in this case, you know, it says right up here at the top, it says, these are the users who have subscribed to this dashboard. And if you are an administrator with administrative privileges and capabilities, you can publish alerts and effectively push them out to other subscribers. So here I am, this is me, Teek Teekster, that's my login name, and what I can do is say, please alert me, send me an alert when someone creates a new version of this dashboard, okay? And then as an administrator, I can also say, you know what, I want my colleague, Kyle Dulac, to also get an alert that a new version of this dashboard has been created when I click Publish Dashboard. So if I do this, I'm going to get an alert, and Kyle's going to get an alert. If you want, you can provide a message, say, hey Kyle, you should see this, whatever. You can provide a message if you like, and then you click Publish. Okay? So it says, there you go. It's published. Now a new version of it exists. You published it, and 2 people have now been informed of the existence of that new version of the dashboard. Okay? And if I go back to my home page, you see that here we go. There, right here at the very top of my alerts is the key measure history report, and you see visibility to the message that I provided, and there is that dashboard. Okay, so that hopefully explains the idea of alerts and how you can now very easily subscribe to them in the scorecards section within, right within the scorecard section, and then also the opportunity to subscribe and to publish things like I showed you a dashboard example, but the same thing applies to strategy maps. Again, strategy maps are just, again, another variations of dashboards, as well as any kind of charts and reports. So if I'm looking at a report, again, I can do the same kind of thing of go up here and go to the alerts, and I can set this up, again, to be something that I'm alerted to when a new version of it comes around. And if I have the appropriate capabilities, I can publish and alert someone else to the existence of that new version of the report. Okay, need just a quick breath here and just to reflect on what we have up next as our next topic or a little vignette here, and this is Send To. Okay, so again, we're just navigating our way across this upper right-hand toolbar at this point here today. And again, I'll just jump back to the scorecard section to talk about the Send To capability. This happens to be something that I really hope and trust all customers are already aware of. So there's not a whole lot to cover here, in that what Send To allows you to do is it allows you to, as its name implies, send what you're viewing out to somewhere else to do something. So if I'm looking at, and it's going to be context specific, this does matter, that as I'm looking at a scorecard here in the overview tab and I go to Send To, I get an extensive list of destinations where I can send this. I can send this to an internal briefing or presentation deck. I can send it out to a printer. I can send it via email. Of course, a couple of different, Microsoft applications here of Word and PowerPoint or Acrobat PDF. I also can leverage what I have here to effectively copy it and create an import file that would allow me to create another scorecard just like this, maybe for a different organization or a different department within my company. And of course, I can create a measure value import file for this area of the scorecard. Now, just to touch on a couple of these things, little subtle things about this. If I click printer, please just be aware, look up at the top, if you would, that a new browser tab has been created for me, giving me a view of what I was looking at, that scorecard element. It's broken it out to 3 different pages, and I can print this. Okay, so that's what happens when you send it to a printer. Same kind of thing happens if you push it out to a PDF, where it will establish a new browser tab for you to house what you're pushing it to and allow you to do what you want with it. If, on the other hand, you send it to email, you get a slightly different experience here, where, of course, what it's going to do is say, well, where should this be sent? Who am I sending this to? Give me an email address. And if you have users set up with already identified emails, you can grab them from your list of users or user groups right here, or you can just type, whatever kind of email address you want in here as well. Okay, so that's the experience. And then, of course, you just click send, and it pushes a view of what you're looking at off to that email recipient. Again, similar idea, slightly different experience. If you were to say, I'd like a Word version of what I'm viewing here. If I click Word, it gives me the opportunity to either download what I'm looking at right here, right now, at this minute, or I could say, I'd actually like for this to happen, let's say every week or something, or every quarter on the first day. So I won't belabor, going through all the different properties and attributes here in the scheduling interface, but you can send this to who you want it to be sent to. You can define what time period should be shown in the output that you're creating. You can define then, of course, the schedule. Do you want it to be done every quarter, every month, every week, every day, at what, on the first given day of the month or the week, and at even a particular time. So this is a great new feature where you have the opportunity not just to download it immediately right now, which of course you can do, but you can also schedule some of these sending to processes. Okay. And then, of course, the other thing that I do want to make you aware of here, if you look at this send to list, you'll notice that, again, we've got Word and PowerPoint, but what's kind of distinctly not present here is Excel. And a lot of times people do want to get data, out of our QuickScore Scoreboard scorecards and get them out to Excel for whatever other purposes. If you flip over to the Measures tab up at the top and view the same thing, so I'm still looking at the Mobile World Balance Scorecard. I see all the elements, the same measures are here, all the owner information. And again, as I hope and trust we can adjust the display options here to pick and choose what we want to see on this, tabular view of our scorecard. But my point here is that if I go now up to the Send To drop-down, you'll see that the list is expanded to now also include Excel, in that it acknowledges that Excel is really obviously a tabular kind of destination, and it really only makes sense to send tabular formatted information from QuickScore out to something like Excel. So my primary point here is that the menu of Send To destination is going to be context specific based on how you're viewing something and what specifically you're clicked on. So if I were to go to Initiatives and go to Send To, I get a slightly different drop-down list. It's a little more limited. There's no sense of sending this out to create a scorecard import file or a measure update file. If I'm looking at, let's say, a dashboard, and I go to Send To, you'll note a very similar list, but it also includes a PNG image and a shared dashboard. And the shared dashboard is really very cool, because what it allows you to do is grab something that is coming, from QuickScore or Scoreboard, and you can create a link to it that is either a shareable direct HTML, HTTPS-based link that you can embed, let's say, in an email or something, and or you can leverage an iframe reference to the same dashboard. So the dashboards have that enhanced capability in terms of the Send To, and you're not going to find that share in the scorecards area, but it does pertain to dashboards. Okay, so the net here in Send To, I have to be a little respectful of time, is that lots of different options, very context specific as to where and how you can send information from within QuickScore or Scoreboard out to other applications and destinations. Okay, we're wrapping up our review here of this upper right-hand toolbar. And again, what I'll do is just return back to the scorecard section just to kind of reorient myself here. We're still looking at the Mobile World Inc. Scorecard. The last button up here on the right is your history button. It looks like a little clock icon. If I click history, it gives me, as its name implies, history about the element, the scorecard element that I'm viewing. Now, right now, there is no history to share for what is the current period of April 2020. But if I'd like to see all historic events for this Mobile World Balanced Scorecard, I can go all the way back to the day it was created, back in November 30th of 2016 is when it was created. And somebody changed it was action of name change on a user. Somebody made a property setting that it was a view only back in March 15 of 2017. So I get a comprehensive historical overview of the history of this particular scorecard element. And what I can do with this is obviously just review it live, of course, but I also, again, can, if I'd like, I can send this out for, reporting or documentation purposes or what have you, out again to a printer or to Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or PDF. And again, whatever kind of element you've got selected, whether it be in this case a scorecard, or I can navigate down to a measure and take a look at this measure's history and see, well, what has been going on here with product revenue over its lifetime. And so again, we got history going all the way back to 2016, running through towards the end of April of 2020. Okay, so in a nutshell, that's history and what it can do for you, and the reporting and archiving visibility available therein. Okay, just taking a quick look at the clock, we're doing okay here. So the next topic of our 10 is number 8 is files. So files is kind of an often overlooked section of QuickScore and Scoreboard. It lives, I've clicked in the far lower left, or far left, I should say, middle left, under the foundation area. Again, it's a foundational section. They're foundational components like your scorecards and your initiatives that very much form the foundation of what you can do and view and work with within QuickScore or Scoreboard. So files is basically gives you the opportunity to upload really any kind of file you want up into the QuickScore or Scoreboard underlying database repository. Probably the most common question that I face when we talk about files is people say, well, why would I do that? And the most fundamental answer to that question is so that you have things at your fingertips readily available within QuickScore or Scoreboard and don't need to go find them somewhere else where they live outside of QuickScore or Scoreboard. Maybe they live on a network, resource, or they live on your desktop or in one of your own, personal files or something. So if you were looking at an element of a scorecard and say, boy, I know I've got more information about this. It lives in a Word document, or in this case, we've got a PDF that would be helpful to have as a related item to instruct you how to do something, or here's more information that might be helpful for you to understand. You can upload them directly into QuickScore so that it's there and available, okay? So in this case, for instance, I've got a QuickScore architecture diagram that I uploaded, and I say, all right, I think this is going to be helpful. And so I put it into the files area, and then what I, again, can do with this really anywhere throughout the foundational area is leverage the related items that we talked about. So if I believe it would be helpful for someone who's reviewing the Mobile World Balance Scorecard to understand the underlying, QuickScore architecture, I can go to Add, and I can go to File, and I can go and find that file that I've uploaded into my files area or repository and add it. And so now it is readily and immediately available to someone who might be looking at the Mobile World Balance Scorecard and say, gosh, how the heck does QuickScore work? How is it structured? And they can just simply click on it. They'll get access to view it and download it. If they click download in the lower left-hand corner down here, I now have this, QuickScore architecture PDF available to me. Okay? Close that up and get back to here. Oops, that wasn't good. Look at what I did. I closed the whole darn browser. Sorry, folks. You're going to have to give me a minute here to log back in. My apologies. That's bad user error right there. All right. And bear with me while I just log back in. Okay, and we're back. So files, and just to give you a sense of how easy it is, to upload files, what you have to do is pick, where it is you're going to put your files. So files live within a particular organization. So the organization that we've seen so far was the Mobile World Inc. And within it, it's got the uploaded files that we just looked at and, I've used for demonstration purposes. If I wanted to put some files in a different location, such as, let's say, this organization, which is really pretty empty of files right now of May 14 webinar, I can go here and you can see that there are no files in here. Pardon me. So if I want to create a file, I'll just say create file. We'll just call this architecture. Sorry about the capital R, but that's good enough. All right. And say architecture, great. And then I'm going to browse out. And I'm going to go, again, find that on my desktop. There's my QuickScore v3.3 architecture. That's the file I want to upload. It uploads it up, and I click Done. And that file is now available within the May 14 webinar organization as something that, again, I can reference within the scorecards anywhere within the QuickScore here within that organization. So that's how files can get updated very quickly and easily. Should a file change over time, let's say that next year, we release a new QuickScore version and it slightly changes the architecture, and I want to update this architecture file with a new PDF up here towards the upper right, I can click drag and drop or click to choose a file, and I can just go out and again navigate, give it, go out, navigate, find a new file and upload it, and I can replace the existing architecture file, and what it'll do is it will take the place of the original architecture file wherever it's referenced as, again, for instance, a related item. So it's very dynamic in that regard, and that, again, is another benefit to leveraging the files is your opportunity should something be a file that you leverage in a lot of different locations, and then it fundamentally changes, and you want to change that file and have the change impact everything that it relates to. You can do that via the files area or section of QuickScore and Scoreboard. Okay, so that's files. A couple more topics here yet to go, folks. My voice is starting to fade, but we'll get through this. The next topic here for today's webinar is all about linked measures. Again, this is something that I know that I cover often with new prospects and new customers to make sure that they understand the capabilities of and the power of linked measures. But in case you're unaware of what a linked measure is and how it works and how you create them, that's what we'll be discussing here. So probably the best example of the use of linked measures here in our demo environment is under the Mobile World Inc. global organization. There are a lot of different departments, right? We've got finance, marketing, customer support, operations, and so forth. So in the financial area of Mobile World, the financial division or department, they have a scorecard where they are tracking, of course, all the important finance metrics, and they have structured for themselves a scorecard broken out kind of like a profit and loss sort of statement, where they've got revenue, and then they have underlying measures of product revenue, training revenue, and book revenue. They have a cost area of product costs, training costs, book production costs, and so forth. So a very straightforward kind of P&L structure to this financial department scorecard. And this works really well for them. They track their own performance day in and day out via this scorecard and this structure. Well, at the corporate level, higher up, if you will, up the ladder, at the Mobile World Inc., the big bosses, all the CEOs and CFOs and CIOs, they of course also care very much about finance. And what they do is they have embraced, if you will, a classic balanced scorecarding methodology here of your 4 perspectives of financial, customer, internal processes, and organizational capacity. Under the financial area, they have a couple of key objectives to increase revenue, improve profitability, and reduce sales overhead. And under the increased revenue, they are tracking some of the same measures that exist down in the finance department's scorecard. They say, of all the things in finance, the ones that we really care about under the objective of increasing revenue are product revenue, training revenue, and book revenue. And notice, please, and this is very subtle, but it's important, is to the left of all of those measures, the little graphical icon associated with them it's 2 links of a chain is what that icon is. So what this tells you visually is that product revenue is actually linking or calling another measure that physically lives in a different area of QuickScore, a completely different actual organization and scorecard where it's being, again, tracked, updated, maintained, and utilized somewhere else. We're also going to call it here. We're linking to it. So if I click on product revenue and look to its I'll go back up to the info button. Remember the info from earlier. We'll go to info and say, well, okay, what's the details here of this measure? And it tells you right up front. If the little 2 link icon wasn't enough, it tells you right here, this is a linked item. And as a linked item, it says, well, what's the source measure? Where is this really coming from? So again, if I click on product revenue, you know where this is going to go, folks. It took us back to that financial organization and the scorecard for financial profit and loss and that measure for product revenue, which again is where this thing, if you will, really quote unquote lives and is maintained and updated and where it was originally created and all that. That's where product revenue really lives. And what's happening back at the Mobile World level, as we've talked about, is we're just linking to it. We're effectively calling it or referencing that product revenue measure, okay? So that's the story, if you will, behind linked measures. Now, how you create a linked measure is very easy because, again, you're just calling an already existing measure in a particular location where you want to link it. So what I'll do here, just for demonstration purposes, so I've got this May 14 webinar scorecard. It's a very rudimentary scorecard. It's not even populated with data yet. It's just an empty, really, skeleton. But it's got the same kind of general idea as what you saw up at the Mobile World, where we've got a couple different, perspectives. Under financial, I've built one single objective to increase revenue. And what I'd like to do here is exactly what I just showed you was existing at Mobile World, is I want training revenue, book revenue, and product revenue here under increased revenue. I want to link to them. So to do it, all I have to do is highlight increased revenue as the objective I want to populate, go up to the top, click new scorecard item, and give this, a name of product revenue. Okay. Now here's the key. In the upper right-hand corner, under type, I would need to select linked item. So notice before I do that, the software assumes that I'm going to create a measure and it gives me the opportunity to create this as a brand new measure with all of the pertinent attributes and properties that really define, a measure. But in this case, I'm going to say, nope, no, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to link to something else. So I'll click linked item, and then what I'll do is navigate here along the bottom under the choose source item. I'm going to go find the thing that I'm trying to link to. So in my case, it lives in the financial scorecard, it's under revenue, and it's product revenue. So I highlight it and I click create, and I just right there created a brand new measure. Okay, now what the software is doing is it's expecting I'm going to move on to another one, so we'll just do that one more time. I don't want to, again, beat the dead horse, but again, it's now expecting I'm going to do a linked item. Again, I just need to navigate and find what I'm looking for, so financial and under revenue, and in this case, it's book revenue, right? And then I click create. So lickety split there, and I'll get out of edit mode here. I'll click done. So I'll remove myself from edit mode, but you see now that I have created product revenue and book revenue via the links to those measures, again, that live physically over in the finances organization and within their scorecard and the revenue area there. So that is linked measures. All right, we're about to run out of time here. We have one more topic to go here today, which is about notes. Notes is, again, something that if you don't know about it, it's there. You may never even notice that they're there, but they're there, and they're really very, very powerful. So in this case, again, just to cover this notes topic, I'll go back to the Mobile World Inc. organization, and we'll take a look at their scorecard here. So under organizational capacity, the perspective for organizational capacity, we've got an improved contract management objective, which of course has its underlying measures, which again, you're noticing here that they are linked measures, okay? But improved contract management is an objective. Down towards the bottom on the right, it's been here the whole time. Anytime we've looked at any screen for any particular scorecard element, the notes capability is there. It has always, in most cases, not always, most cases it's been hidden from view purely because of my chosen screen resolution. So down here at the bottom, you see show notes. So if I click on show notes, a pane expands up from the bottom and shows me here that I have notes. Someone has defined notes around this improved contract management objective within the Mobile World, balanced scorecard. So I can take a look at these notes and see who has said what. If I want to see those notes really all the time, I can simply just adjust my screen resolution. I just did a little control negative here to adjust my browser resolution. And now you see the notes permanently down along the bottom, giving me easy view and access to commentary, information that people have provided in a text basis, above and beyond all the wonderful data that's being presented for this improved contract management objective. I now can get people's thoughts and opinions and orders, if you will, marching orders and reactions. So notes are really very straightforward and simple. They can be added to scorecards, and they can be added to initiatives. Okay? Initiatives have the same idea down at the bottom here. If I just randomly pick the Migrate Servers to Cloud initiative down along the bottom, there is a note here that I put in earlier. It's just anything. Right? It's a note. Okay. So notes exist for both all kinds of scorecard elements and all kinds of initiatives, tasks, and milestone elements. So just real quickly back to the scorecard and the improved contract management. To add a note here from the scorecard view, it's as simple as can be. You obviously click on the Add Note button, and then say, your note goes here. Okay. And then when you're defining a note, this is subtle, but it can matter, is you may want to define exactly what time period this note should be associated with. So in this case, I am viewing information for April of 2020. It assumes that this note should be pertinent only to the month of April 2020. I could say, no, this is a note that I would like to be displayed and available for any month in a given quarter. In the quarter, in this case, the second quarter of 2020. Or I want this thing available as anyone views anything throughout 2020 and this objective, I'd like for them to be able to see this note. Or you can even take it to a step further, is to say, no matter what time period someone is viewing this particular, in this case, objective, I want them to always have access and visibility to my note. And then I can click that note. So you have a choice whether you want to make it time period specific, monthly, quarterly, whatever calendar you've got defined. You can lock it into a given calendar period, or you can make it open, wide open to all time periods. So that's one place where notes can be added and reviewed. You can, of course, notes are extensive. You can reply. You know, a note isn't just like a one-time thing. Someone gets to do a brain dump. People can reply. People who have access to scorecard elements or initiative elements or what have you can establish ongoing commentary and collaboration via notes. So here I can put in, you know, a new reply here, right? So you can reply and back and forth talk, if you will, about a particular anything in the scorecard via, again, notes. Now that's one place where notes can be defined. The other place, just want to make sure you're aware, is back on the home page. If I go back to the home page, hopefully you're all familiar with the idea of, you know, your responsibilities. And if a user has updater responsibilities, they can click measure updates. And in here, in addition to providing just, if you will, actual raw data for a given time period, someone can also add a note here. And it takes you to the exact same experience, the same interface. You add a note, you do, it's all the same. It's just a different door, if you will, to the opportunity to provide notes. So that's where notes really physically live. They actually live in the scorecards and initiatives sections tied to whatever scorecard or initiative elements you are reviewing, and then they can be viewed within those sections. And also, just lastly here, as I'm about to run out of time, we can also take a look at a dashboard where on the dashboard you can leverage notes as well. And this is actually something that I covered in an earlier webinar, the idea of putting notes on a dashboard. So I don't want to get into really training about how to do this, but just be aware that notes, amongst many other things, are a type of widget that you can put on the dashboard. So you can see, you know, even the brand new notes that I just put in 2 minutes ago are being reflected here on this dashboard, and the notes that I have tied to via, again, a notes widget on the dashboard. And again, you have control over how the notes can be viewed. I'll do this and then we'll wrap things up. Is if you click on a notes widget on a dashboard and go to edit, you can say display as, and you can say, look, I'd prefer just to see abbreviated tiles, or you can see the full notes. And it's your choice, whatever is most efficient. Maybe you're more concerned about space and you want to keep it tight and small, so you want to see just the abbreviated tiles and allow someone to click on them to actually view them, or you can set them up as displaying them as full notes, where you see the text of the note and have right at your fingertips the opportunity to reply or edit or whatever you want to do. Okay, so folks, it is 2 minutes to the top of the hour. We've gotten through all 10 of my aspired agenda items, which was a lot, and the 10 different, again, I will call them topics or vignettes. Again, I won't read the list of what we just covered at you. I hope this was helpful and educational. I would again invite you, please, if there's anything that I covered today that wasn't able to really answer your questions and you have additional questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us at learn@spiderstrategies.com. Thank you again for your time and attention in attending live today, or if you're watching this on a recorded version, thank you for that as well. Before I let you go, I just want to put in a quick plug that next week on Thursday, May 21st, we will be doing another educational webinar. The topic of that will be leveraging advanced calculations. It'll be at the same time next week on the 21st. That's 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. And you will get information about that. And then also, last thing before I let you go, our last webinar is going to be on May 28th, and it's what we're calling Ask the Experts. And what we're asking all of our customers to do, customers and partners and prospects and anybody to do who cares or is curious about QuickScore Scoreboard, to share with us your questions. Like, what would you like to ask of a QuickScore or Scoreboard expert? You're going to help us define the agenda and the things we'll cover on that last day, the 28th. The thing about that is we've opened up, you should have all received an email inviting you to please contribute your questions to that, but the deadline for that is tomorrow, end of day tomorrow, May 15th. so that we can get our ducks in a row and be ready to answer and respond to all of your questions. So if you are interested in providing us with a suggested question for that last webinar on May 28th, please do so by the end of day tomorrow, May 15th. That's it for today, folks. Thank you again for your time and attention. I hope this was helpful. We appreciate you as a customer and a partner, and have a wonderful day.